We're getting more now on the breaking news here in the Middle East. CNN hearing constant gunfire near the Israeli-Gaza border after an intense new Israeli air bombardment with flares lighting up the sky over northern Gaza. Joining us now from Tel Aviv, Mark Regev, a senior advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. We've been watching this extraordinary image of an apparent Israeli assault on northern Gaza. What can you tell us about what is taking place right now? Because the airstrikes seem to have been, they continue for a half an hour nonstop.
So obviously, while military operations are ongoing, I can't go into any detail, other than to say that we're keeping the pressure up on Hamas. We are hitting its military machine. Our goal is, as you know, Wolf, is to destroy Hamas's military machine and to dismantle its political control over Gaza. After the horrific attack that we endured on October 7th, when they massacred our people, they raped, they burnt babies alive, they shot young people in a pit who were attending a festival, a music festival. We refuse to have to endure that sort of violence ever again. And the only way to protect the Israeli people is to eliminate this threat, the threat that Hamas poses. President Biden called Hamas sheer evil, and evil needs to be eradicated.
As you know, at least I suspect Israel is also trying to send a message right now with this intense aerial assault on northern Gaza. And I say that because Hezbollah's leader is scheduled to make an important address tomorrow. Is Israel sending a message to Hezbollah in Lebanon?
I'd send a message to Hezbollah now. I'd say to them, don't. I think I'm repeating what President Biden said. Don't escalate the situation in the north. We have no interest in a two-front war. But if you start one, if Hezbollah forces us to respond, we will respond forcibly and decisively. I hope cooler heads will prevail in Tehran and in Beirut. I don't think anyone has an interest in another war. If we're forced to fight, we will. But let me make it clear, we prefer to avoid that. We want to concentrate on what needs to be done in Gaza. We fought two-front wars in the past, in 1967, in 1973. We will prevail in a two-front war. We prefer, however, to avoid it. We're watching very closely. We're mobilized. We're ready. I hope, as I said a moment ago, that more rational minds prevail both in Tehran and in Beirut.
Yeah, the suspicion that I have is Israel sending a message, don't mess with Israel right now, because if you see what's going on with Hamas in Gaza, you're going to see even worse to Hezbollah in Lebanon. CNN has learned, Mark, that the White House has begun bluntly warning Israel that the civilian death toll in Gaza is increasing, putting pressure on the U.S. government to publicly call for a ceasefire, which the U.S. has not yet done, and that Israel has weeks, not months, before that potentially happens. What's your reaction to that?
So we believe we can do two things at the same time. On one hand, we will relentlessly pursue our campaign against Hamas. There can be no giving up on that. There can be no giving Hamas a breather. We will continue to ratchet up the pressure on Hamas. That is a given. In parallel, at the same time, we'll make every effort to keep civilians out of the crossfire. We don't target Gaza's civilian population, and we want to see them safe. That's why for days now, for longer, for 2.5 weeks now, we've been calling on the residents of northern Gaza, where their intensive fighting is happening. We've been calling on them to relocate to the south, to safer areas. We've been talking to the Americans and others about establishing a safer zone on the western tip of the southern area of the Gaza Strip, next to the coast, not far from the Rafah crossing where the aid is coming in. We don't target Gaza's civilians, and we're doing our utmost to try to keep them out of the crossfire.
Mark Regev, thanks as usual for joining us.
My pleasure, Wolf.
And coming up, fellow Republicans turn on Senator Tommy Tuberville.